Welcome to the Motoring Podcast, your weekly discussion of motoring news. This is episode 525 on Tuesday, the 16th of May, 2023. Hello, I'm Alan.
Hello, I'm Lazarus. And in a week where our toilets are clean, our heating works, and we have plenty of workwear, we'll be watching one company thinks it's no big deal for explosives to randomly go off in cars. New Car News discusses one that looks like a discontinued 11-year-old model from a different manufacturer. And we bring a touch of consumer journalism to the list of the week.
Well, we bring someone else's touch of consumer journalism, I think.
Oh, we're bringing it.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Follow up. And hot on the heels of Australia getting really very unhappy with people having street races, California has decided that they too will bring something in very similar. And this is Pico Rivera's city council has passed a local ordinance allowing the police to permanently confiscate vehicles used in illegal shows or street racing, and spectators within 500 feet can be fined up to $2,000 for watching the event. And it is made clear in The Drive article that 500 feet is about 2 city blocks.
You could even be done for preparing for one.
So if you're thinking about it, so therefore you're guilty.
Yes. Obviously, illegal street racing and drifting and stuff is illegal.
Yeah,
We
absolutely.
should say that.
They've decided to up what penalties there are for it.
Definitely.
Anyway, do you want to keep us in America in the
Yes,
news?
literally as well as figuratively. A company called ARC has been asked by the NHTSA, that's the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration over here, to recall the airbags in about a quarter of all US vehicles.
It's quite a large
Yes, it adds up to 67 million because there have been occasional airbags rupturing and exploding. ARC is saying no.
Strongly disagrees.
It strongly disagrees. He is saying that there is no systemic or prevalent defect in their inflators, and that any time they've gone off, they have gone off randomly because of a random manufacturing defect. Now, of course, with 67 million of them out there, it only takes the tiniest percentage to be flaws in a minute percentage for it to become a bit of a thing.
But it does underline that it's a mad idea to have explosives pointing at our faces in cars.
They're ridiculous. We should all have gone with Audi's Procon 10 instead, which pulled the steering wheel and everything away from you by mechanical means in the event of an accident, as opposed to driving around with fireworks pointing at our faces. It is ridiculous. Airbags are one of those things that when you start thinking it through, you think, why the heck is this allowed? Yeah, airbags are a special one. I've never liked airbags. Obviously, operating properly in the right circumstances, they can, of course, save lives or serious injury, he says, backtracking wildly, but they're still a firework pointing at your face when you're driving.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm going to take us to JLR because they have some not as bad as normal news.
I've been corrected quickly, by the way. It's Procon 10. I can't remember what I said if I misspoke whenever I was naming the Audi system.
JLR have announced improved revenue, that they have increased their profits, and that their losses are down significantly in the last quarter of last year. Their full year revenue is up 25% on 2022. Their revenues in the final quarter are up 49% year on year. Their wholesale units were up 24% year on year. That's for the last quarter, sorry. And for the whole year, they're up 9%. So it means that they have actually managed to get some chips and all the parts that they were struggling to get and have been able to deliver vehicles. They've got something like 200,000 units on their books still to build and get to customers.
Yes, it's amazing how you can actually start to build stuff when you have the parts, and you can actually start to make money when you do it. Obviously, they'll be prioritizing the higher profit vehicles right at the moment.
Well, yes, the Range Rover, the Range Rover Sport, and the Defender.
Exactly.
Well, I'm happy that they are in a less bad situation.
Yes, absolutely. It's always good when JLR are in a less bad situation.
Do you want to take us to
last
Germany?
week was the Volkswagen shareholders meeting, the annual. Oh no, I was going to make a joke about it being the annual sausage fest in Wolfsburg because of what they serve for lunch, but you probably don't want that. Yeah, so
amused at his own humour.
Yeah, I know. Well, there's not much of it. So yes, last week was the Volkswagen shareholders meeting, and as seems to have been the case over the last few years, it has been interrupted by protesters. It started off with activists throwing cake at Wolfgang Porsche. It seems to have missed. That's probably a relief.
And they were doing that because of the Volkswagen Group's stance on, or it was claimed that their emission plan will never meet the requirements of the planet.
The science is clear. The emissions from Volkswagen's planned car sales are beyond planetary limits, was the message held up by activists from the group Scientist Rebellion, according to this story from rawstory.com. Not only was cake being thrown, but also a topless woman interrupted the speech given by Volkswagen CEO Oliver Blume to criticize the group's operations in the Chinese region of Xinjiang. This is an interesting one here because the factory in Xinjiang is a partnership with SAIC. It is in an area of China in which there are documented and known issues with detainment, suppressed minorities and that kind of thing, as well as labour camps. The Volkswagen are rejecting suggestions of forced labour in its factories in response as well. Obviously, don't use forced labour in your factories and try not to have factories anywhere near that kind of thing, I guess. Well, that would solve these issues. So it sounds like it was an interesting day out.
Probably more interesting than what it was going to be.
Well, yes, that and the free Wurst as well for the shareholders at lunchtime.
Yes. I am going to take us back to America and inside the court, because it's been a while since we've talked about court cases. No, it hasn't. But this time, it's to do with Tesla. And there is a lawsuit that has compared Tesla's over-the-air updates to hacker attacks. Now, there is an error that has come up following over-the-air updates called the BMS_U029 error messages.
Snappy.
Absolutely. And what the lawyer is claiming that this is reducing the performance of the battery packs in certain Tesla vehicles. And in one, I think at least one, that it has actually stopped the battery pack from working at all in one model. And the lawsuit is using California's Computer Data Access and Fraud Act and California's Computer Fraud and Abuse Act as the way that it is trying to get money and recompense out of Tesla. Now, they are saying that because of the way Tesla has implemented these updates and it has reduced the usability of their vehicles without the consent and authorization of the owners, to the extent that they've done this, that equates to someone hacking in and changing how your whatever it is from doing whatever it is you want it to do. It's an interesting tactic, and it's the first time we've seen it. But it won't be the last now.
No.
Because that is interesting that they are going down the software route of this, because obviously the over-the-air is software. I'm not a legal expert by any stretch of the imagination, but this does seem like a bit of a stretch to make that work.
Yes, this is going to absolutely come down to wording in an end-user licensing agreement that you signed whenever you bought the car, I guess. I don't know if this is going to be successful or not, but it's certainly going to start putting the thought in people's minds. Watch out for some rewriting of user permission documents and stuff.
Yeah, because they do talk about as well that there was no known faults with the battery packs and all the rest of it, so therefore only Tesla's software reduced these things. So that's the sort of angle they're coming at it from. But it does go to show what a minefield over-the-air updates are. And along those lines, we will link in the show notes not only this story from Auto Evolution, but a blog post from a friend of the show, Ken Tindell, explaining just how difficult automotive over-the-air updates are. And perhaps the auto industry shouldn't have gone down that route.
Yeah, it's really interesting because it's sort of highlighted a number of things, like just the billions of driving hours and everything that has to go into things. It is written in an interesting and understandable way for non-nerds.
Yeah. Yes,
it's
absolutely.
Genuinely interesting. Do have a flick through that. It's definitely more interesting than the story outlined in the court case.
That's only because we're very bored.
Well, that's true. This is very true. Next up is India, though. India has put forward a proposal. It's for some serious anti-pollution measures. They want to ban diesel vehicles in highly populated areas by 2027 and ban 2- and 3-wheelers or tuk-tuks or, internal combustion powered tuk-tuks by 2035. This is a really good sentiment, I think. And obviously, I've been to India and stuff, then it is polluted. The air is gross, to be perfectly honest. It really is horrible. And I think this is a fantastic idea. But you can hear there's been a but coming for the last 3 minutes. But my big worry is infrastructure. Especially as from 2024 onwards, all new registrations for city delivery vehicles should be electric. I just don't know how they're going to manage to charge these. I have this funny feeling that what we're going to see is an awful lot of diesel and petrol generators being set up along the sides of the streets in an ad hoc manner to charge the electric vehicles.
Yeah, if people think it's bad in the UK.
That there'll be near zero infrastructure at all. Not only that, but you've also got a highly inventive populace who will work its way around whatever loopholes are needed as well. Electricity is not always available at the flick of the switch in much of India, even in large cities. I love the idea. I think it's really, really needed. I just worry that the infrastructure isn't there, and then the loopholes that people will use to get around the infrastructure will probably be worse than the problem that was being solved in the first place. I fear it's slightly one of those cases.
This isn't China, where the government has invested hugely in enabling the shift.
Exactly.
So if the government does back it up and does then go on a huge push for infrastructure, then I'm not saying it'll completely work, but they will be shifting significantly in the right direction.
Yeah, absolutely. But infrastructure in India is even worse than it is here in the US.
No, and that's
just generally, generally US infrastructure sucks. Good luck on the infrastructure there, folks.
Yeah. I'm going to take us to Toyota in Japan. And they have revealed, disclosing that for more than 10 years, a misconfigured cloud bucket, i.e. something on a server remotely.
A folder.
Yes. Has meant that 2.15 million records were exposed to the internet that anyone, if they had stumbled across it, could have accessed. This also included their connected services that went from November 2013 until April this year, that covered things like drivers being able to stream entertainment, use location data to find stolen vehicles, flash maintenance reminders, and send for emergency help in case of accidents. Toyota make it very clear that there was no identifying of individual customers, and they had not seen any use or abuse of this data by anybody who should not have had access to it. This is the sort of thing that the laws around the world now help with, that companies have to declare this sort of stuff so that it will enable you, if you happen to be one of these 2.15 million customers, to make sure your spidey senses are really ticking along, and just in case something odd looks like it's happening around any of your accounts. But here, it doesn't look like they had any of such information that would lead anyone to be able to find you individually.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Still, protect your servers, folks.
Yes. Please check things more than once a
Cornwall
decade.
next, and thankfully no technology whatsoever is involved in this story, he says, scrolling quickly.
There is
there's a survey. So residents of Cornwall are being invited to take part in a study about active travel in the county. They want people who use active travel, which of course is walking, cycling, not driving, to keep a log of what they're doing, to keep a diary of it, and to submit that. In return, they'll be paid £25 for taking part. I'm sure to cover their time and expenses. The idea of this is that they will then use this information to be able to make better decisions about how to help reduce car use across Cornwall.
Yeah, they are aiming at residents in Truro, Falmouth, Penryn, Newquay, Penzance, and St. Austell. So they're the major towns. The
surveys, there's 2 online surveys, which are once a week travel diary for 4 weeks. And they may even be asked to use another form of transport as part of the research as well, so that they can compare I guess, the same journey over different forms of transport.
Yeah,
it's quite
with
interesting.
The people's feelings on it, which is
yeah,
interesting.
that's like one stage ahead of what we see most of the time. So, yeah.
Yeah. Hopefully. So if you do happen to live in Cornwall and you are in those towns and you do actively travel, please do sign up for it.
Andrew, plugging Van Grant.
Yes. And this is, for a change, good news on this front from the government.
Hey.
They are increasing the limit up by 50%, so it goes up to £1,500 per financial year for plug-in vans, whereas before it was only £1,000. But the Office for Zero Emission Vehicles has changed this because they have been watching market conditions, apparently. But it does go to show that they are paying attention, and when things change, they are adjusting how much businesses can claim.
That is surprising and welcomed.
Yes. And absolutely. I'm very happy to see it.
Yeah, same here. That takes us to Guild Minute. Quick break in the show where we ask for a tad of financial support to keep the lights on and the hosting running. If you feel the Motoring Podcast is worth a small consideration every month, then you can become a patron. Different levels of patron include different levels of commitment from us to you, including being able to watch the show recorded live. We also have a small range of merchandise in our spring store, from stickers to mugs and t-shirts. If you don't have any spare cash, and we completely understand, then you can help us by following for free from a podcast player to receive every show as they're released, and by liking and rating the show in whatever way your podcast supplier lets you. If you've done all of that, and some of you do, so thank you very much, then the last thing you can do is recommend us to your friends or colleagues.
Yep, thank you everyone that does. New car news, Alan. Can you take us to London for the reveal?
Yes. The first up in the monster new car news that we have this week is the MG Cyberster. So this is a compact convertible sports car, which is MG badged, obviously. It's available in 2- and 4-wheel drive versions with 309 horsepower or 536 horsepower, respectively. And they will cost $55,000 at the lower end and £65,000-ish at the upper end. Car's about the same size as a BMW Z4, so it is bigger than a TF. Obviously, it's upper class or two. And it weighs about 1,850 kilos, thanks to its battery pack. It is ridiculously quick, as you'd expect. And I think it's pretty good looking. The only thing I'd slightly stuck my teeth through are the rear lights, which were a bit over-stylized. But otherwise, this seems like it's a good-looking, good-value car. Oh, apart from the yoke. I don't like the yoke. The yoke is gimmicky and rubbish. Give me a proper steering wheel, please.
If you've got the yoke, you need, as Tesla has demonstrated when compared with Lexus, you've got to have adjusted steering.
Yeah.
Right,
this is going to be good, folks.
A lot of people got exercised about the 55,000 because it didn't help, because they trumpeted how it was the first affordable EV roadster. Well, that's because the only other one is the Tesla one that was whatever it was.
But there's a new Tesla one. Oh, no.
There's virtually no electric cars these days coming out that can be called affordable, because they are all significantly north of 35 or 32,000 pounds. That is the reality of electric vehicles. And that's before a manufacturer decides that their electric vehicle is a premium or whatever. I think when it comes to talking about affordability and all the rest of it, that's a very difficult conversation to be had, and statements that are being made are a little bit misleading, I would suggest.
Yes.
There are good reasons why electric vehicles are significantly more expensive than an ICE equivalent. There's battery packs, there's the silliness that the car industry has got sucked into, that everything must be able to get across Europe on one charge, which means you've got to have huge battery packs, which increases your costs massively, which also makes them weigh huge amounts.
And that's almost 2 tons, I quoted earlier, a few minutes ago.
Yeah. So until that changes, or there is a significant change in battery technology, that's just the way it's going to be. I agree with you. I think looks-wise is really attractive. The paint is stunning. That red is amazing. I'm a little bit worried where they talk about the fascia and instrumentation has taken influence from contemporary gaming trends. That worries me massively that will look awful very quickly.
I think you're right, that kind of stuff. dates terribly. I mean, just as comparison, I was sitting here whilst you were speaking there, and I was looking up comparative prices because it quotes as BMW Z4, which is about sizes with. And even that, in its most basic 2-litre format, comes in at 45,000. If you want anything that's quicker, that is anywhere near the performance that's being put forward by the MG, then you're at the 50,000. And similarly, the Super, of course, same platform, same basic platform, is coming in at that 55,000 as well. So I don't think that, given the performance and everything else, that it's actually that different.
But performance is also a misnomer because they're electric.
Yeah, exactly. Which then immediately cuts your range right down, but as it does with petrol too. So anyway, I think it's quite good looking. We'll see how many get seen on the road and stuff. Really, when it comes to, that's really going to be the test, isn't it? Is how many people are actually going to pump up the cash, but as a halo car.
Because so far they are a value proposition, and this is a big step for them.
It is, but at least if nothing else, it's a halo proposition.
I mean, it's a statement of intent as well.
Yeah, totally. Let's move on to the next one. So the Lotus Type 134 is a small SUV that will rival the Porsche Macan. They say it's going to be, according to this Autocar article, they say it's been engineered to look, feel, and drive like a Lotus. And it will share tech and I imagine much drivetrain stuff with the Electra, the larger SUV.
Yeah. Now,
the rendering here, I hope it looks a little bit smarter than the rendering that's shown here, which is a bit bulbous, I think. I think I'm being polite enough when I say that.
Yeah, it's not the most attractive.
Mm-hmm. So this is on the plan. Not a lot of details just yet. However, I'm not saying it's important or anything, but Lotus's commercial boss is saying the company expects the Type 134 to account for half its annual sales by 2028. And that would put it at about 75,000 units a year. Almost unheard of numbers for anything with the Lotus badge.
Yeah. Even though it's Lotus, I do struggle to get excited about another SUV.
I think it's just the world.
I mean, it's the way of the market. It's the way of the world. I get that. For how long that's still allowed to go on, because the noises of anti-SUV-ness, even though all SUVs are equal, obviously.
Obviously, yes. I mean, there is no difference at all between a compact electric SUV and my V8 Lexus, which isn't an SUV. It is
exactly.
There is no sport involved. Yes, clearly, they are the same thing.
Yeah,
it's all about how much. Yeah, it's ridiculous. But never mind. It's just hard to get excited. Anyway, let's move on to the Honda Fest, shall we?
Yes, sticking with SUVs.
Let's tick through these quite quickly.
Announced 3 new models coming to the UK, starting with the E:NY1, which is roughly the same size as the Jeep Avenger. It's a renamed one from the Chinese market at the moment that they build in conjunction with their partners out there. And as a consequence, the interior doesn't have any buttons, but large amounts of screens.
It's an electric HRV. That's what it is. You can even see that because the picture at the top in this Autocar article shows the battery pack sticking down where it's been jammed up underneath, and it's not been properly packaged for it. They've changed the grille, they've changed the wheels, they've put more screens on the inside, and they've changed the highlighting color around on the trims from red to blue because blue's electric. Whatever. Yeah, it's going to be cheapish, roughly £30,000 as a starting price. Meh. Okay.
They have to.
Yeah, they have to.
They have to make one. So, why not bring one from a market that's as mature as ours, I would suggest.
I would say at least as mature as ours, yeah. Yeah. But we'll see what happens, see how many people pick it up. I suppose it's, if you're only doing lots of I guess really whenever you look at the buyer profiles, you'll probably find that it's people who don't drive very long distances at once, probably have a driveway and space for their own charger. Probably a good market for that.
Yeah.
Probably. I can see why. Next in the Honda Fest is going to be the Honda ZR-V. And I looked at that and thought, that's familiar. And then it says, the new Honda ZR-V fills the gap between the existing HR-V and new CR-V. And I thought, that's the US market HR-V. And sure enough, Autocar points that out further down in the article here. They'll be linked in the show notes. But yes, they're taking the ever so slightly larger, I mean fractionally larger, US market HRV and bringing it to Europe to sit just above the HRV. It's there we go. It's what it is, really. It's a small SUV. You'll only get two-wheel drive. They sell it four-wheel drive, all-wheel drive over here. It'll be around the £40,000 mark and probably arrive in the UK towards the end of the year. I'm sorry. Just something. The ZRV will eventually take place the current CRV in the brand's European lineup, with models upsized its next iteration to better complete with the Skoda Kodiaq and Toyota Highlander.
It's not that big.
There is a significant difference in size between a Kodiaq and a Highlander for starters. And this is the ZRV, but the new CRV is nowhere near that as big as the Highlander.
No, but it is closer to the Kodiaq.
Yes, because to be honest, there's the Honda Pilot, which competes with the Highlander.
Mm.
Sorry, I've had a whole new set of model ranges to learn about.
Yeah, but talking about the CRV, this is going to be the first plug-in hybrid for Europe with a bold new look that reminds me significantly of the Mitsubishi Outlander, especially in the white colour in the photographs or the renders that we're given. This is, as with all these models, this is Honda playing catch-up because the Japanese manufacturers didn't move at all on electric vehicles, although Toyota and Honda did early days, and then Toyota continued with the hybrid. I'm moving that to one side, but the fully electrified, they are scrambling now and producing, that sort of vehicle. This is the third SUV for us to get excited or not coming here, whatever.
Yay. You commented it has, certainly from the press pictures, it has more than a whiff of the Mitsubishi Outlander about it.
Which I'm not saying is a bad thing, because I quite enjoyed when we had one for a week.
Yeah, you liked it. Do you like the Outlander?
I liked it. It's a compromised vehicle because it's a plug-in hybrid, but they all are.
You quite like the previous gen CRV as well, to be honest.
I really liked the previous gen CRV.
So I'm just trying to balance out here. And I quite like the HRV if it wasn't for the driver assist stuff.
Yeah.
Yay. So that's me balanced our negativity with some positivity there. We're sitting here gurning about them, but I think whenever you've actually got the keys in your hand, it's probably a very attractive ownership proposition.
If your object is to get from A to B.
Yes. I think that's fair.
Some good news for Honda anyway, more good news, is the Civic is now back on UK sale as of last week. It was. Yesterday.
It wasn't that it was ever taken. Well, it was taken offset. It wasn't that it was ever unavailable here. It's just that they had too many orders for the number they could build.
Yes.
So now they're approaching parity again. So they're reopening the order books. So it's not as if they ever said no Civics here.
Yeah.
It was just a pause to just try and let all the numbers balance up again, supply, demand, etc. So yes, it's back. So that's good.
Just like other manufacturers have done.
Yeah.
But one manufacturer, Alan, is actually shutting it for good on one model.
Yes, which is a shame. I didn't realize it had been 3 generations.
No, I didn't.
No, I think that's probably one of the reasons why Mercedes are discontinuing the CLS, is because the last generation became a kind of invisible model, certainly in the UK anyway.
Well, I think their target market bought SUVs, probably.
They probably all moved to the GL whatever coupe versions of stuff, which is a real shame. Or just moved straight into some kind of sports car, I guess. But anyway, the reason being given is to increase production capacity for the latest E-Class at the Sindelfingen plant in Germany.
Yep. Going to Volvo, though, and they have announced that there are delays in the EX90, which, if you remember, is the fully electric sister vehicle to the XC90, but it looks different and everything, which was due to begin in late 2023 because there are software issues. We don't know what the software issues particularly are, because obviously there is so much that software does in vehicles now. It might be the battery, it might be the driver assistance stuff, it might be just the infotainment, because don't forget they're going all in with Google Automotive.
Yes.
There's so much that it could be, or it might be a combination of the above. So we don't know, but they will obviously be very happy to tell us when they fix these things and then they can actually get the cars in people's hands.
Mm-hmm. Good looking thing though, isn't it?
But I'm glad they didn't release the vehicle and people go, hang on, there's a problem with my software, as perhaps others have done recently as a demonstration of how not to do it.
Yes, exactly. It's just one of those times when you think, well, okay, they're doing it because it's, people are trying to make sure it's done right.
Mm. Do you want to take us to one more, or our final new car news story that made me double check that it wasn't April the 1st?
Well, yes. General Motors is planning to come back to Europe, which is definitely a surprise, having pretty much withdrawn from Europe. But they're going to come back with only electric vehicles. And they're going to start in Scandinavia, which doesn't come as a huge surprise. I know that loads of people previously, the Chevy Bolt, the little hatchback, with electric hatchback, which was never sold in Europe, but really, I don't know why. Just, I guess, because they were pulling out. People were doing personal imports into Norway, for example, because it was just the kind of car they wanted. But GM refused to sell it. So they're starting there. They're starting off in subtle manners with the Cadillac Lyric, which is an electric Cadillac, which is a handsome looking thing, actually. I'm going to be honest. Supposedly, the Celestiq, the big one that they revealed recently, isn't going to be sold in Europe, well, not to start with. They're also probably going to bring across the Equinox EV and possibly the slightly larger Blazer EV as well.
Will they bring the Hummer?
It says larger electric cars like this is from the Drive again. Larger electric cars like the Silverado EV and Hummer are probably not well suited to the taste of most European car buyers.
You mean we have some taste?
Have they been to Sweden and places where people love those because there's loads of space and big roads and it works perfectly and they're over there? It just doesn't work in towns. Yeah, you can bet that those will be coming over as personal imports. It points out here that GM does still have some infrastructure in UK and Ireland. It opened an advanced European design studio in the Midlands and expanded its Irish IT innovation hub recently.
I wonder what changed the mind.
I don't know.
Because they were so adamant about leaving and everything. Well, I wonder whether there was more significant problems in the business that they had to solve. So they had to exit quite a lot of markets very quickly.
Yeah.
To solidify the base and then think about expanding again. Because it just seems so odd because it was so recently that they closed and ran.
Yeah, it could even just have been politic, internal politic.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just a very strange one. So there's two stories there. By the way, Ford as well, not to be outdone, has just launched its F-150 Lightning in Norway. So I'm sure they'll be watching to see how well that sold before the Hummer and the Silverado EV.
Yeah.
That's that for new car news. Thank goodness. What a monster bunch this time. Points of interest then. The first story we've got is from the Autopian. It's a little bit old. It's from 20th of March. It's by Kevin Williams, and it's one that I spotted a while ago. And he's talking about regional auto shows. He went to one near him in Ohio, and he's saying that it still matters. Now, I really like this article because it agrees with my own opinions. I would know that the manufacturers, and I know that all the journalists have got very, very bored of motor shows. So, here we go. Yes, we're going to walk around. It's completely irrelevant these days. We can do individual things. What they missed, and I think what Kevin experienced by going on, the public days as opposed to press days, is that actually people, potential buyers like them, and that they're good to get a view of a lot of vehicles very, very quickly in the same place.
Yeah, and it's without the hard sell.
I was about to say that's exactly where I was going. Here, if you take a step near a dealership, there will be someone clinging to your arm like a freaking limpet. And you're like, go away, get off, get rid of your slime. And it's a nightmare. Whereas here, you can actually, this is an opportunity for people to go around and look at things at their own pace and without that hard pressed sell, which just, we'll talk about this in a podcast at some point, but buying cars over here is just hell. And it will mostly be a ranty, Alan, shouty podcast, but never mind. It's really nicely written. I mean, Kevin explains it far better than I do. So do have click through. It's from the Autopian. The link will be in the show notes.
Right, I'm going to take us to the list of the week. And this is from Top Gear. And I found this quite a good reminder because it's called 10 Things You Probably Didn't Know About the Highway Code. Now, we did talk about quite a while ago the changes in the Highway Code, but I'd forgotten one of these myself, which was, and there was others in here that it caught me a little bit by surprise too. But the one that I'd forgotten about, because I'm not going to ask Alan for his top 10 here.
No, because Andrew's is good, so we're going to...
Is about the pedestrians and cyclists. And we know, or if you listen to the show, you will know that pedestrians and cyclists now have more of a right-of-way than they did before, and it is hierarchical to do with who is most at risk. But the one that caught me was that if you're in a motor vehicle, you must give way to a pedestrian who is waiting to cross the road.
Mm.
And I'd forgotten that. And I actually witnessed that today on the road, that somebody waited for a pedestrian to cross a road rather than turn in. And they got tooted at by the car behind them for waiting. So we need to remember that there are changes, that this is a live document, the Highway Code, and we need to keep up to date with it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a lot to be said for some form of intermediate or time-based. Hey, it's time to retake your written test or driving test or something with driving, isn't there?
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
Here, the same rule applies here in Massachusetts, but people start stopping miles away from you, and it's quite unnerving, actually. Sometimes people are overly polite about it, even when you're trying to hang back from the edge and think, well, let's let those 4 cars pass. I'm not in a rush. And then one of them will just start slowing, and you're not sure if they're slowing because they've seen you or they're slowing for another reason or whatever. It's very weird. But yes, it's good to remember that particular rule. What's next? And finally this week upsets me. It's not what I would have put in. It's crash testing Lego Technic cars. And I just look at it and go, what a waste. Time, effort, some bits are broken. The crash testing Lego Technic cars from 5 kilometers an hour up to 100 kilometers an hour. And it's a Technic Defender crashing into a Technic Charger. Yeah, I didn't watch to the end. I just went, okay. But there we go.
No real cars were harmed in making
this video. Yeah, exactly. Well, this has been a bit of a monster this week. So let's very quickly, parish notes, Andrew.
Yeah, I'd like to thank you all for your patience and Alan for manfully carrying on in my absence. I am very sorry that it's been so long. And as you can probably tell from my not very great voice, and I hope that didn't annoy you too much during this episode, that it has been quite a struggle to get back to anything like being on the show. And also thank you to everybody who sent me the kind messages. Very much appreciated.
And the ones who sent me the kind messages as well. That's also appreciated. Yes, that was the first bit. Yeah, I'm glad you're back. I missed you. Something. I have to say something rude to him off air to balance that out. Congratulations also to Alex Grant, Rich Gooding, who have both been nominated in more than one category for their work in the annual News Press Awards. Well done, guys. Much deserved. You do great work.
Yep.
Really appreciate it. And yes, maybe one day there'll be a News Press Awards for podcasts, but given there's a limited number of motoring news podcasts, then
well, just
some
just for them to recognise that podcasts exist would be nice. I don't care if we win anything or not, but just to acknowledge that the medium happens.
Yes. Well, they're a little bit behind everyone else, aren't they?
Yeah.
Anyway, that does it for this week. Don't forget, folks, that between now and next week, you can give us any feedback, share your thoughts, to the show at Motoring Podcast on Twitter and Instagram, on Facebook, and on the contact page at motoringpodcast.com, the hub of all our activities. Remember, you can support us financially via Patreon, and please leave a review and rating on Apple Podcasts or however your podcast app lets you do such a thing. Andrew, what's the best way to get in touch with you?
Best way to get in touch with me is via social media such as Twitter or Mastodon. If you search for Crack Windscreen, you will find me there. And Alan, if people want to get in touch with you personally and find out what it is really like in your sporty, compact SUV.
You're half right. Then you can get in touch with me. Best to use Twitter or Mastodon, where I'm at AJP Bradley. That's BIADLEY. We'll be back very soon. But until then, I've been Alan Bradley.
I've been Andrew Close.
And safe motoring.